Tasneem, why haven't we heard about all of this grooming stuff before from Shamima? It seems to me like she's just making up stories by the day to try and garner sympathy with the British public. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, back in 2015, when she had gone over to Syria, there were a number of her school friends who remained behind. Their phones were taken by the UK police and were examined, and the communications there were being monitored. So the idea that the UK authorities don't know about the grooming would be somewhat difficult to substantiate. Shamima Begum's only really been able to communicate with the wider public through the events where journalists managed to beat a path to her camp and she speaks to them. So it's not as if she's speaking in a trial in the UK or to the UK media whenever she feels like it.
OK, Big Phil, Campion. Has anything that you've seen from Shamima Begum made you think that we should somehow let her back in?
No, I don't think she's shown no remorse for anything whatsoever at any stage of these proceedings. She's never once said she's sorry. She's never once said she wants to be rehabilitated. And I fail to see where in the public interest it lies for her to come back here. I've just failed to see that completely. You've got to ask yourself, is she a threat? Is she a threat? Can she prove she's not a threat? Can we prove she is a threat? Where do we try her? Who's going to be responsible if she does come back here? Where are we going to keep her? You can't just let her loose. I mean, that's tantamount to anybody apologising for being connected to a terrorist organisation. To just come back and go, oh, I'm really sorry. Right, while you lawyers sort it out, I'll just take it easy for a bit. You know, it's a massive one. She needs to stay where she is. She needs to remorse. You know, and if she is to come back at all, it needs to be proven beyond reasonable doubt that she is no threat to the people of this country. And if the laws in place at the moment don't allow that, then the laws need to be changed. And I've said that before.
Tasneem, do you understand why Big Phil would say, look, this woman could pose a real threat to us?
Well, I understand that Phil may have not followed the entire arc of Shamima Begum's sort of news reporting. So she has said on record that she's sorry and she apologises. So that's factually inaccurate, that she hasn't shown remorse for that. In terms of whether she can come...
feel genuine.
Well, I mean, the issue is that can I sit here across from you and know what you genuinely feel yourself? Yeah, the issue...
Yes, you can. What? Because I wear my heart on my sleeve and I'm honest right from the start. And if you look at Begum, the first interview that she gave, there was no remorse. And then she realised, oh, that didn't go down well with the British public, so she got a little bit more PR savvy. And each interview, she looks a little bit more Western and she feels a little bit more remorseful in what she says. But I look into her eyes, Tasneem, and I don't believe what she's saying. I don't think that she's telling the truth.
To be accurate about it, you look at a television screen and an edited version of what she's saying.
Correct.
She's gone through the process of a journalist.
But I'm a good judge of character, you know.
Through 4,000 miles, fair play. But the UK justice system has a process for adjudicating whether or not somebody is genuinely showing remorse, and that's when they give evidence to a jury of their peers. And so we have 12 of our peers who face somebody who's giving evidence to them, and they judge them, you know, in the moment, really. And that, I guess, is what Shamima Begum's request is that she faces the UK justice system on UK soil with a jury of her peers who will then judge her. OK,
Big Phil, how do you feel about that? Tasneem says all she wants is to come back and face trial.
Shamima Begum is playing the victim here, right? Now, I've been to Syria. I don't know if you've been to Syria or not, but I have been to Syria. Okay?
No, I haven't.
And I've seen the real victims from Syria. I've seen the women that have been raped. I've seen the real brides that were ripped from their homes and their children have been killed and the heads rolled down the street, the heads that Shamima said, oh, it doesn't faze me, OK? I've seen that destruction. I've seen the real victims. Your best place, pal, is to go out there and help those people instead of trying to help someone who made terrible decisions, all right? And she would be best placed trying to help those people as well, so that we could see, oh, actually, she's trying to do something about it. Maybe she is remorseful. Because at the moment, all you're doing is cashing in. All right, all you're doing is making a load of dough out of this, all right? And all you are really ultimately doing is putting the people of this country at risk by encouraging other people to do the same thing as her and try and come back to this country when they've outwardly stood up against and fought against this country. And, you know, other than that, I don't really have a lot to say to anybody.
Tasneem, just to clarify, you represent the Begum family, don't you? Where do they stand?
Yeah.
What do they want to happen to their relative Shamima?
Well, I'd like to address a point first, is that...
Yes, go ahead.
You know, Campion, he said that I've made dollar out of this, right? I've actually worked for her family pro bono for free, which I've stated many times on the record. So it's almost defamatory for you to suggest that I've made money out of this when it's on the record that I haven't, specifically. So I'd like you to retract that first. Now, in terms of whether the family stand, well, clearly her mother and her family members would like to have their daughter back. Whatever she may have done, they would like to see her face trial in the UK or justice in the UK. And, of course, they want to make sure that their child is safe, like any parent would. Where she is at the moment, in a refugee camp in Syria, that's, you know, she's not safe there to the standards of what any parent would want.
Do you understand, Tasneem, why a lot of folk, like me, like Phil, will say she joined an organisation that didn't just make British people feel unsafe, they killed us. They killed children at the Manchester Arena bombing, for example. And so actually we don't have that much sympathy about whether Begum feels safe or not.
Well, the question was what do her family want. So
Yeah.
I'm putting that forward. But you're right, the Manchester Arena bombing is a very interesting comparator. Salman Abedi's brother, who was involved in murdering 22 people, the British government went out of his way to go to Libya and spend treasure and time to find a terrorist who was guilty of murder that we know, and then brought him back against diplomatic resistance. At the same time, we have Shamima Begum, who we don't know is accused of any such crime, and yet the British government is stopping this woman, this young girl, from coming back to the UK.
She's not a young girl anymore, is she?
Well, she's certainly not a murderer of 22 people who blew up the Manchester Arena, and yet we as a government have gone out of our way to bring him back to UK soil, which is why that comparator doesn't really work. Why is it we have one rule for Shamima Begum, the young woman, and another rule for a murderer who is a male fighter who is now languishing in a prison in the UK?
Big Phil?
My issue with this as well is whether we have to have an obligation to bring her back or not. What do we do with her when we bring her back? Where does she go? Who foots the bill for that? What are we actually going to do? We can't just bring her back and go, I'll tell you what, just go home until we sort this out, can we? So what do you suggest we do with that? What's your suggestion with that?
I mean, Tasneem, we would have to pay for it.
Run around the streets.
Tasneem, the British taxpayer would have to pay for it. We would have to pay to bring her back. We would have to pay to put her on trial. Then, if she was found guilty, and there's the issue that there could be a lack of evidence, but if she was found guilty, we would then have to pay to put her into prison.
And we were falling over ourselves to pay that price for Salman Abedi's brother, because the idea of British justice is an important concept that we still hold dear.
Yes, but he was involved in a crime on British soil. Begum made a choice to go offshore, to join a terrorist organisation offshore. So our point is that she made her choice.
So if we're going...
We don't need to put her on trial here. We just want her to stay away.
So if we're following that line of logic, the counter-terrorism laws should say that if you join a terrorist organisation anywhere, you're committing a crime according to UK law. You know? Joining a terrorist organisation is a UK crime and requires adjudication by a criminal court in the UK. Now, if you're suggesting that that's not the case, well, then it's the same as Salman Abedi's brother. He wasn't in the UK when this crime was afoot. He was involved with it from abroad.
Phil? Big Phil?
I'm not making any judgments to the Salman Abedi case. It's not what I came on here to talk about, and I don't know the case in question anyway, right? So stop baffling me with your lawyer mumbo-jumbo and get to the case in point. We do not want Begum over here until it can be proved substantially that she's not going to be a threat to the people of this country. And if it can be proved substantially that she's not going to be a threat to the people of the country, well, come on in, and then we can try you, and then we can see which way to progress. But baffling with all your mumbo-jumbo is not washing with me, son, all right? Okay? I want to know about the Begum case, not that case.
And Tasneem, if we take what the government is saying on face value, Sajid Javid, who was Home Secretary at the time, has actually told the British public that if we knew the information that he knew about Begum, there's no way we would want her back. So why should we not trust the former Home Secretary who had access to intelligence that we do not have access to?
Well, of course, you're asking the general public to trust a bunch of politicians who quite recently has been suggested that were involved in, corrupt practices. So Sajid Javid himself, having had an interest in an AI company, is suggesting that the NHS ought to engage itself with AI practices. So we have our newspapers full of headlines about Tory sleaze and corruption. In the same breath to say we should trust these very same politicians, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that actually we should trust our judicial system. All this mumbo-jumbo that we talk about is actually the basis of our citizenship.
Well, I have to be honest. I trust Sajid Javid more than I trust Shamima Begum. Not saying I trust him on everything, but I trust him more than Begum. But look, I appreciate the debate. Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.